Dragon's Dogma was released some time ago. It initially launched on Xbox and never reached the masses until its release on PS4 and PC, and it was at this time I was lucky enough to play the game as it was much smoother. It was a taxing game at the best of times and offered a less than ideal Xbox 360 experience performance-wise, and the PC and PS4 really showed how it could look. The Nintendo Switch is not the most CPU strong machine, and combined with the Tegra 1 it might struggle in some areas, but at the end of the day this at its core is a last generation game. How does it fare on the Nintendo Switch? Let's find out. As you'd expect, your tale begins with a titular dragon, who subsequently leaves the star of the show, you, a little battered and bruised, and much less proficient in having a heart than he was before. Rather than just annihilate you, as let's be honest he should have done, he goes the Bond villain route, giving you the chance to go away, build up enough strength, friends, and resources to give him a decent run for his money. Which is fortunate because the game would have been pretty dull if it ended there, to be fair. What follows is a journey through a world heavily inspired by Western RPGs, but entirely its own. It has some very questionable sections and can be long-winded and downright slow. I will say I thought the true end of the game was pretty poorly handled, but there are a few to see. Now, side quests are plentiful throughout the game. While many of them might be a little boring, no, I don't want to get you some flowers, some are far more interesting, and having these is really what made the experience now and when I first played the game. More generic quests will be available via notice boards as well. For me, story scores 14 out of 20. There are some more mundane ones, and the core story can be completed quite quickly in comparison to some games, but having said that, you've got the expansion pack and the bitterly difficult Bitter Black Isles, which is nice, but the final game endings do feel a little strange. That's all I'll say about that, and I'm sure you'll see for yourself. Still, the overall delivery of the story was nice.
From further in, there's ort down there. Mark my words. I could feel it, I could.
Your initial task in Dragon's Dogma is to create your character. This is functional enough and allows you a surprising amount of tweakable options to get your build just the way you want it. You will also choose their vocation, which will have a dramatic impact on the way you play. I won't go too far into this as it could fill an entire video, but your basic vocation will take you up a few levels, at which point, if I remember correctly, you can then branch out to either a hybrid, allowing you new skills, or an advanced vocation, which will give you more offensive abilities. There are several layers to the leveling system, but you aren't expected to know everything, and the game does a good job of feeding you information over time, so don't be worried about that. Also, quite near the beginning of the story, you'll be creating your first pawn. What on earth is a pawn, I hear you ask? Is this game part Witcher, part chess? No, it's not. In this world, pawns are otherworldly beings who don't seem to get old and are basically devoid of any of their own thought. They exist as a servant to all of the Arisen, of which you are one. They will assist you on your quest to slay the dragon and recapture your heart, or die trying. Creating an effective main pawn is very important, as they can be far more effective support than those you can recruit, so be sure to give this some thought when you're at this stage. There is much more to the pawn mechanic than I can go into here. They're really a vital and important part of the experience. You can have up to 3 of these for a team of 4, and giving these simple commands is easy enough with the D-pad. The most surprising thing if you've not played the game and are used to other RPGs with companions is how very not completely useless these are. Sure, they might utter these same sentences a few thousand times and get you ready for a grand strike, but they will hold an enemy for you to stab or jump upon a larger monster's back and join you in a bucking bronco that will ensure its eventual demise, all the while doing damage. Other magical supporting pawns will keep you alive and even imbue your weapon with an element to assist with the killing of certain creatures. There was a nice little online component to the game, whereby the pawns you had created could be shared for others to use. This seems to be intact on the Nintendo Switch, which is great. If you're interested, then maybe just pop your friend code down below and I'm sure you'll get some other like-minded people adding you. Other than that though, despite appearances, there are no other online options, and if they'd added a cooperative mode, I think it would have made Dragon's Dogma a better game. Controlling your character though is easy enough. You can run, jump, swing your weapon, and also grab with the press of a button and mount a creature to deliver more damage to vital organs or body parts. Much like Monster Hunter, certain enemies will have severable limbs, which is hugely satisfying. Your pawns will fight for you, which is useful in both taking the heat from you and allowing you openings to get to grips with your enemy. When I was first introduced to the Monster Hunter series, it definitely had the Dragon's Dogma feels at times, but as a fan of the Witcher series, it's nice to have this style of combat within an RPG landscape. The simple control you have over your companions works well enough, and if they go down, you can get them back up easily with the press of a button. It's very important to monitor your stamina at all times, but particularly in combat, as you have a set of weapon skills to assist you, but these will cost you even more. If this falls too low, you'll end up completely knackered, panting and spitting on the ground, like reliving the school sports day in 1996 all over again. I never liked running anyway. Unlike Monster Hunter though, you will have a health bar when fighting creatures, so always know how much longer they have before they go down. And it really is standout in a sea of games with progressively more clunky control schemes. Here's looking at you, Skyrim. While hacking and slashing at your enemy will feel quite familiar, the third-person camera and better than average animations such as the head turning to look at danger or the nice sprint animation add a good sense of speed to the combat. As spells explode all around you looking for the next opportune moment to jump, limbs flailing onto their backs before they have a chance to counter you is a delightfully thrilling affair. Unfortunately, there aren't any motion controls, which is a shame. I was hoping you would have had the ability to shoot arrows with this, or maybe some other interesting additions. No such luck. Leveling up your character is easy enough, and skills you've learned will need to be equipped. You'll find a ton of items to pick up and loot throughout the world, as well as a wealth of gold to acquire. Shops and other vendors will keep you in the finest attire, and upgrading your gear using the numerous enemy drops, ores and other items will become essential as you progress. The main thing I found with Dragon's Dogma was how accessible it felt. Many large-scale games can feel immensely overwhelming and drop you in with nothing to go on. Not so here, and you'll feel quite well looked after by the time you get around to venturing off on your own. The quest tracker, statistics and map screen are great, and making a quest a priority to make its location more visible on the map is useful. The game isn't perfect and can be a touch slow at times, but the core elements, the combat, the upgrades and the pawn system are very compelling indeed. Throw in some brutal monsters and tons of questing and you'll certainly not be short of things to do. Gameplay for me is stellar, well underrated. This game scores for gameplay 19 out of 20. It is excellent, and the inclusion of the pawn system allowing yours to earn special rewards online etc. by letting it assist other players is great. It would have been sorely missed if they'd have left it out of the Nintendo version. Performance is very good on Nintendo Switch. The translation to the small and large screens has been much more positive than I thought it would be. The game resembles the PS4 re-release rather than the original Xbox, and real-time shadows as well as decent texture resolution overall, some aren't great to be honest, are here. The most important aspect though is the frame rate, which does have the occasional drop in handheld, but only single frames when lots is going on screen. For the most part, it's an absolutely rock solid 30 frames per second locked. Audio is truly grandiose and wouldn't be out of place in an epic scene from The Lord of the Rings. It is essential in adding a further level of immersion as you mount a huge creature and stab ferociously down into it. Although some of the character voices are laughable, when I created Glen, he for some strange reason unbeknownst to me sounds like Hodor from Game of Thrones. It is quite comical to be fair.
Deadline draws near.
You will be running through the wilderness either towards or away from your next targets, aiming a strike while the orchestra thunders out around you. Or maybe using the included photo mode to capture some nice moody shots of the party, and even as you venture into the darkness of some long lost forgotten tomb with only the light from your torch and the echoes of the creatures in the darkness. The human character models are showing their age quite a bit, but they are probably one of the most last generation elements to the game, particularly those of the NPCs. You can put a little more time into your own pawns though, but don't expect to be wowed. The game excels most with monsters and in particular the animations that surround that combat. They have a very witchery feel about them, and I am certain that series must have taken some inspiration from Dogma. These moments are the way role-playing in a world such as this should look. Nothing is perfect, and I sincerely hope that in the long overdue sequel, which we can only hope comes off the back of this huge success, sees some of the clunkier visual aspects addressed. Overall though, visuals and audio thankfully hold up admirably on the Nintendo Switch. You will notice a visual drop in handheld, yes, but it's nowhere near blurry like some recent releases. Instead, some shadows are slightly lower resolution, but performance is very solid. That being said, character models and some more low resolution shadow maps mean it doesn't quite hold up to the PS4 or PC versions, but it's very, very close. I love it when games have a day and night cycle, and as the sun sets, light might shine in accurately through a window. In these times, it's visually great. Visuals for me score 16 out of 20, and the audio 18 out of 20. Some repetitive porn lines became memes for a reason. The game costs £24.99, $29.99 or €29.99, and it includes all the expansion content, including the Bitter Black Isles, which wasn't the best as they made it ludicrously difficult, seemingly just for the sake of it. Still, it's there, and it's one more reason that Dragon's Dogma, an absolutely wonderful game, will be quadra-dipped, or even more, by so many people. Having this experience on the go at such a reasonable price is brilliant. If you're a physical collector, then you're also going to be in luck. Prepare to lose many, many hours of your lives. Value scores 19 out of 20. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to say this, but I absolutely loved Dragon's Dogma. I loved it before, and I love it even more now on Switch, and having it portable has made me as happy as when we got Dark Souls. It fits perfectly as a long journey game, and load performance is solid. Sure, they maybe could have added some form of motion controls to really put the icing on the cake, but the fact it runs this well is an absolute win. It scores a SwitchUp score of 86%. An excellent port of a brilliant game. Right, I'm off to buy Glen the Pawn a new shield. He's earned it. Thanks to all our Patreons for the continued and growing support. If you're a regular and fancy supporting the channel, the links are, well, they're all over the place to be fair. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. See ya!